back and bigger than ever. It's the Unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast, and the entire crew is here together in the office. Josh, is your headphones too loud?
No, I don't think so.
You're making a shocking look.
No.
It's the first time, all four of us.
It is.
That's
this
the shocking look.
This
in
is
the
the first
office.
time ever?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've ever done one, all four of us?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
In the office.
In the office,
In the
sure.
office,
Well,
yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in
Maybe
general,
ever.
I don't think Bob and I, because in your old setup, we couldn't do that. You just had the three.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So, I know this is the only time Bob and I have potted together. Like I'm sure
you,
of that.
me, and Eddie have
done
done
it.
one
Yep.
together in person,
Yep.
and Bob, Eddie, and I have done a lot in person together. But yeah, us four, especially in the new office with the TV wall, so we're watching OU run rule Northwestern,
Yeah.
essentially.
So there's definitely going to be moments where I just am like someone's going to say something and I'm not going to be paying attention. I'll
You
be
have
watching
3
radio
outs
softball.
to worry about, and
I
then
am-
you don't have to care.
I am taking the Johnny Baseball approach where you cannot be you can't come on this bandwagon and say shit. Which, by the way, I have followed Johnny Baseball. I appreciate the guy's passion, but don't tell people how to be fans. Like, I mean, that's been kind of my thing for a very long time. Is fans don't want to be told how to be fans.
You don't get to be gatekeeper.
No.
I mean, even I guess we're gatekeeping right now, but
We're
like,
gatekeeping fan behavior. We're not gatekeeping. Well, behavior toward being fans, not toward rooting for their team.
yeah. I mean,
Like, just let the game grow. Just let the game grow. I mean, I know you have good intentions, Johnny Baseball, but just let the game grow how it's going to grow. You're not always going to agree with the way some fans handle themselves.
Yes.
I mean,
we run
obviously
we
not
run
a member of the Crimson Corner.
Yeah, we run a website and can't get people to do what we want them to do.
We
so
run a
good luck with that.
website, and they hate us. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people just hate us.
Kind of comes with the territory. I like
Yeah.
it. I wouldn't want them to like us.
So anyway, the reason we're all together here today in the studio, Josh, obviously, he has to get out of here. It seems like every week we're just trying to find a way to do a podcast and trying to get through it, and get someone out the door somewhere. Last week it was holiday stuff and camps. This week, and Josh has got to fly out here in about an hour. So we're a little bit limited on time. But I told you guys, like, this is your pod. You guys have been out there the last 2 days. I'll just throw out the first question. Impressions of a Brent Venables football camp. Is it more like, Josh, what you remember, kind of more run like an old Bob Stoops style camp? Or is it a little bit different, maybe even or is it closer to Lincoln camp, or is it just different than both of those?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Like, I mean, because there are so much of what I think of with, and you and I talked about this last week, Carrie, with the Bob, they were always in shoulder pads and helmets, and there was a lot of physical contact, and there was more they could do because they were at least half padded. These guys, I mean, everybody's in T-shirts. I mean, it's no different than like a Nike camp or that kind of thing. Like, it really, now, those kids think they're chasing offers, and in some cases they are. So there's no lack of physicality. They're giving everything they've got. They're trying to impress coaches. So that's absolutely present in there. But at the same time, I thought the rhythm of it was very similar to a Bob Stoops camp. Like, because it was, at X time, we're going to be here, we're going to do this. The primary difference was, you remember when they would break, it was Bob, want to thank you guys for coming out, blah, 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 really enjoyed having you. It was always very brief. As to where with Brent, like, we left and Brent hadn't yet spoken. Like, I mean, like, there was going to be.
He went 23 minutes the first day.
Yes.
And the whole thing went more than 40.
Yeah, usually Kale kind of ran all of Bob's camps.
100%.
And so
He had a lot to say.
So Kale would, tell everybody, he would introduce them, he would introduce them to camp, he would tell them what's going on, and after it was over, he would say, you need to do this, turn in this, turn in that.
Yep.
But it wasn't like Bob didn't really use it. Maybe he did, with the recruits that he had come in or something, but wasn't like you saw Bob having a big presentation to the guys that came to his camps.
No, never that I can remember. I mean, he was always kind of hands off with it. He really, like you said, that was really Kale's show.
And Lincoln was the same.
It was always Kale's show for Lincoln.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, Cale was definitely a presence. I mean, there's no question. But I thought it was more of Miguel Chavis to a large degree. I mean,
Chavis,
he seemed like kind of the master of ceremonies to me, if anybody was – you were going to say somebody at MC. But, I mean, when I left – and, again, Brent hadn't even gotten to the mic yet today on the second day. And let's see, Miguel had talked. John Finley had spoken. And I think who was about to talk right as I was leaving? Rufus had talked. Rufus was talking when I left. So they, I mean, it's not just the pure coaching staff. I mean, Justin Broyles talked for a while, and I thought was pretty good yesterday.
It was
he really brought some good energy.
It was all guys that have played at OU that have talked, and I think that they really kind of put that out there too. That there are 18 guys on staff that are former players, and I think that it's a unique look at the program that you probably don't get at another place.
Yep.
But outside of that, why don't you guys kind of talk about just the players that you've seen the last couple of days? Guys, obviously Brent is big into getting guys to come to camp to work with them. How successful was he in that regard in these first two sessions?
That is the
four
part
sessions
that reminded me of an old Bob Stoops camp, because really you had a lot of top echelon guys. I mean, you had David Stone. Today you had Xavier Sims. You run the list. You had a lot of quality guys, and it was true yesterday morning as well. But there's a lot of those guys, and there's a pretty big drop. And then you've got just your normal standard campers. It's not the
now there were some
depth.
guys that came in yesterday that didn't work out that did today, right?
Yes, yeah. There were
big names.
I don't know, but were there yesterday.
Day 2 morning session was probably the best session.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because you had very clear groups at defensive line and defensive back that were very good. The wide receiver this morning, Keon Brown, is really the news of the day. He picked up an offer that he tweeted out not long before the second session broke. And actually, as I was walking to my car, I saw him walking with J.R. Sandlin and another one of the 2025 guys that impressed some people this morning, whose name I'm just going to happen to forget. It was Stubbs. It's doesn't matter. It will be run down in the future stories on the site. But there, Sandlin was giving the Florida guys a little bit of a tour. And then yesterday you had guys like Peyton Woodyard that worked out in the mornings.
Riley
Wormley that picked up an offer from Colleyville Heritage. For those listening that are big Josh fans, the home of Cody Thomas, my future Sam Bradford.
I was there with you.
Yeah, I was certain of that. That was.
We went down to that spring game. I thought it was like the second coming of Christ.
We made a sizzle reel for our visit down there.
Drake
They
Stubbs.
played.
That's
I think
what it
they
was,
played
Drake
at a
Stubbs.
rivals convention, which was
Cody Thomas is only second to Justice Hansen as far as scoop B-roll goes.
Unfortunately, Bob wasn't with us at that
Not a
point,
great track record.
but he was
No,
there that
no.
same night I was, and
I don't know.
I don't know if his story read as much like a love letter as mine did after that game, but it was like, Cody Thomas, you're the greatest.
I will
you're
say,
the
like,
best.
5
The
passing
sizzle reel that we
touchdowns,
did
2
was
rushing touchdowns. He had 7 touchdowns. in
No,
that game.
hold on. The sizzle reel was ridiculous.
The sizzle reel for Cody Thomas. I'll put it up on the board. It was awesome.
It was ridiculous, and I'm ashamed of it because it was more like let's let Kerry show off his motion graphic skills
It
versus
looked great.
But the intro was like 50 seconds long. It was terrible.
Yeah, it was like a minute and a half.
And it was just motion graphics.
Yeah.
It was like Kerry is fallen in love with Adobe After Effects, and he's going to show you how good he's getting.
That was a good group down there at Colleyville Heritage. That kind of set the tone for like the next 4 or 5 years after them, didn't it?
You go back to that night. They had the receiver, and what did he go to Arizona, Bob? Something like that. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember exactly.
Yeah,
The
something
little
around
white
there.
receiver.
No, he was. Yeah, he wasn't a white kid, but I mean,
And
he
the
was.
model kid. Is that who you're talking about?
No. This kid
They
was.
ended
The
like-
model kid. I remember the model kid. Yeah,
The model
He
kid
was going to be
signed
a
with
model
SMU.
instead of being a football player.
But I want to say that was several years after.
That's the type of kid that Lincoln Riley would have gone after.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He would have got that commitment on the spot.
But no, it was really those.
Oh hey,
two
we got Jordy Ball in the game.
against the Denton Geyer team that just was loaded. I mean, I think they had 10 guys on that roster that eventually signed D1, and basically Cody beat them by himself.
Sorry, a little squirrel there.
No.
Knows that Jordy Ball was
that's interesting news.
Yeah.
game
first-
getting some action up
Came in to
13-1.
record the final out of the opening round game for Oklahoma. They went from upset alert to 13-1 rather quickly.
In what, like an inning?
Yeah, I think it was an inning and a half, literally.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
You imagine I mean, you talk about cold takes. Can you imagine all the players in the Northwestern dugout that at one point were like, we're going to do this?
Oh, I'm sure.
Shock the world.
Well, even they probably knew. Like, just take a picture. Can we take a team picture out in front of the scoreboard?
One
nothing.
And then we'll go ahead and give you a couple runs.
Don't worry. The graphics team will edit out third inning.
Right.
We'll just take that right off the board.
This is what everybody will remember.
You will believe the motion graphics Kerry Murdoch's got ready for this moment.
Was the biggest takeaway from this morning just kind of David Stone asserting himself as far as I think we kind of know we've seen him so much here over the last couple of months, whether it be in a camp setting or just going to see him. It just seems like it is what it is with him. Like, he can be as good as he wants to be. It's just going to be a matter of continued development. Is that probably the best way to say it, Josh?
I think the best thing that could have happened for David today is if there would have, like, if the Ashton Funk kid would have been there today instead of yesterday, like him facing a guy that, well, I mean, frankly, that's probably the best thing that's happened to him at IMG is facing some guys that are of his caliber, because David's just never encountered that. He's so much better than everybody he lines up against. And this morning, I mean, he was out there with Edric Hill and Zadavian Sims. I mean, and, you know, a couple of absolute Power 5 future defensive linemen. And as good as those two are, David was better. I mean, like, and he just was. We were talking about it a little beforehand. I see some Perion Winfrey in him, just in his body type. He's kind of unique in the way he looks. Because, guys, he's 255, 260 pounds, and he looks lean. He looks almost skinny. Like, he hadn't even started to really fill out in his upper body yet.
It's really strange, too. And I guess it's not strange, but it just seems like everything comes to him so easily.
Yeah.
And he seems very coachable, too. I know that's like such a cliche, like, coach speak answer, but it just seems like he really, when they talk, like when he was working with Jeffrey Johnson earlier today, it seems like he's retaining everything that Jeffrey Johnson's saying. Not some kid, and you think like some IMG schmuck that's just going to come in here and like kind of go through the motions, really, for some people.
Sure. And, you know, talking to him a little bit today and watching him, you can tell how much he's changed just being at IMG. Like, he's picked up a lot.
I'm sure there's a little bit of a maturity phase that you have to go through and going from, you know, the big shit wherever you are to kind of the small fish in the big pond.
I mean, you know, at IMG, you might be a 5-star. Cool, you're one of 3 on the roster this year. I mean, it just doesn't carry the same resonance it does other places.
Especially when you're coming from, and I'm not like shitting on Oklahoma kids, but I'm sure it's just a little different.
Yep. Oh, well, you don't walk in. You walk in as a 5-star from Texas or California, you've got instant credibility.
Sure.
You walk in as a 5-star, you know, and I know David's not yet, but I think he's on that trajectory.
Sure.
He's 10th overall.
Yeah, yeah. People are like, he's not a 5-star yet, Josh. I'm like, find the year where number 10 wasn't a 5-star, and we'll talk some more. But it is, you do. I mean, there is a Oklahoma. Like, they just don't think, you know, guys, I mean, let's be honest. We've talked about Kansas high school football and this, you know, and that's the way a lot of people look at Oklahoma, and they think of it the same way. So there's some hills you have to climb and some stuff you've got to battle. But I thought it was a pretty good couple of days for Oklahoma high school football players. We saw some good ones.
They had more, I don't want to say elite, but they had more guys out there over the last 2 days that are guys that were like actually competing to go get offers, I would think, than they've had in. I mean, shit, you're here, Josh.
Yeah.
I think that says,
Yeah.
Does that not just say enough about like what we thought the camp was going to be?
Yeah, I mean, guys, for years it had turned into, hey, guys, I'm not going to be there again this year. Why don't you go check that out?
It just wasn't worth it.
It wasn't worth it.
It wasn't worth the time.
Satellite camps, too.
Yep. Oh, sure.
So, you know, these guys had to show up, according to what Brent said.
It's been interesting. I mean, from that perspective, it's been interesting because, you know, it's like Brent comes in and he's identified a few things, which first one was attendance at the spring game. And he said, I'm going to challenge everybody to make that bigger than it ever has been. And he did it. And he came in and said, we don't do satellite camps. We're not into that stuff. We want you to come to campus. And it seems like this is the number 2 big thing that he really talked about, Bob. And he seems like he's pulling that off now.
Yeah, and I think that's what this was. We all had to learn as we went throughout this week. It's like, is this going to work? Are there going to be guys that actually show up from out of the region and show that, okay, if you want me to show up, this is what I'm going to do? And it worked for this first week, and now we got 2 more days, next Friday and Saturday, to see if they can get that same type of name. Cause, and that's the other thing. Usually there's only about 1 or 2 of these under Lincoln Riley. There can be 4 under Venables. So we'll see just when all 4 are said and done, what the type of elite kids ended up coming to Norman.
And that's Big Bob Stoops energy right there. I mean, can you remember there were 6 days back to back to back? Like, it would be camp.
Oh, yeah.
OU Camp 1, OU Camp 2, and they were 3 days each. And day
2
3
3-day camps, yeah.
God, day 3 was.
Well, you never forget that because of Julian Wilson.
It was a soon. Yeah, Julian Wilson. Yeah, I'm going to sit here and complain about how awful that was. And Julian worked out for 6 straight days, like sweating to death out there. And I'm like, man, it was really hard holding that camera.
No, but I mean, it does kind of show, like, for those that are, mad or upset or whatever about, commitments and, the Ashton Cozart thing and on the heels of that. But, like, you got to pay attention to the stuff that is working. And, like, this is working. And, like, this to me is proof that the way Brent Venables is doing it can work. Mm-hmm. Now, he's not getting all the commitments that everybody wants to see, but Lincoln kind of stopped relying on camps and started relying more on visits. Like, his thing was he wanted to get kids on campus as soon as he possibly could. Yep. That was just his style. That was his system. Brent's system is different. So we're learning about it, and we're learning that so far he is successful in his system and at least getting people on campus that he needs to be getting.
Well, and, you talk about, Lincoln wanted to get him on campus early. I think Brent does as well. He wants him to camp early. Because, like one of the kids that stole the show that we haven't even talked about yet was the Samaj Pierre kid from Louisiana.
Incredible.
That just dominated people. Like, it won't shock me at all if he tweets out an offer before this pod is loaded.
And what position?
He's a wide receiver. He's like 5'8", 5'9".
He's a skinny mini.
I mean, he's a little guy, but
looking at
explosive.
the group, he's not the guy that you would go, that kid's going to be the one that tears it all out.
Yeah, but, it was one of those deals where OU, even, I thought that was the best thing. O-line, D-line, I didn't see it as much, but wide receiver and DB, maybe because it's the personality types of those players, but they were like, we want this, like Justin Harrington's grabbing DBs and being like, get out here. And the wide receiver groups like Theo would grab somebody like, this is our guy, that kind of deal. Like, they were making matchups that worked and, just kind of getting they want to look at those guys early, because they were a lot of big time, big time's kind of relative, and when you're talking 2026 and 2025, but this kid, like we're talking about, he's already got a couple of offers in hand. Going to go down to Florida State. Like I said, it won't shock me at all if OU offers him today. I know they were impressed just from, gauging the responses and stuff we were seeing. So there's plenty there, but, Bob was talking about it beforehand that there's a clear methodology to what they want to do with their visits.
Let me ask you this, because you mentioned wide receiver. Jeff Lebby, what did you think about guys he brought in? Was it more evaluated guys? Were there some big names? Does he look like a guy that's going to attract big talent to come into Norman to work out for him?
At quarterback, there wasn't – I would say the Davila kid was probably the biggest, most notable kid that came in 2024. Now, people will say, like, well, 2023 you have to just accept. Like, there's not going to be any big-time quarterbacks going to come. OU's got their guy. They're done. 2024, I don't think anybody would have been mad if DJ Lagway showed up. But at the same time, he'd already got his offer. Levy's been to see him a couple times. I don't think that was as required as
and he's getting offers from everywhere now.
Yeah, Clemson's offered him here recently. He's extremely talented. Like I said, when everybody was talking about the video, and the Jaden Davis kid that clearly Levy likes because he offered him as well. But to me, it's Lagway and Rayola. In 2024, those kids are just a little bit above everybody else as far as physical talent. Now, Rayola's a little more refined, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I think he's going to be fine. I think it's just they're kind of in a weird spot where, like I said, they've already got their 2023 guy. 2024, they've made 2 offers. I think that's clearly where they're going to focus. And one, they've seen multiple times in person. And the other one's in North Carolina. Like, you can totally
He already
understand.
came. He came to Norman last year. He's
Yeah.
not going to do it again.
Yeah. Came to Norman, didn't get his offer. So,
It's true.
Well, Bob, I mean, you feel free to kind of take this thing over because, I mean, you've been there
What
as
about
much as
Davis
anybody
Bevel?
else.
It was funny. Davis Bevel's out there working out.
Was he?
I don't know. I mean, I guess we can say that everybody out there saw him.
Yeah,
I mean,
they
I don't
weren't
know if
hiding
there
it.
was a, but Nick Evers was out there too. So I think we were talking about like, is there some type of NCAA stipulation that he can be out there because he hasn't technically taken a class at OU yet?
because Bevel
It
was
wasn't like he was
throwing.
going through the camp,
No.
but he was throwing every once in a while. He was like the example leader.
Yeah.
For
and
all
then-
the example
but
guy.
like Evers,
Well, I mean, those
Evers
guys can
didn't
work
throw.
the camps. I
I mean,
mean,
he's huge.
Yes.
yeah, Davis. I mean,
Bevel's a
just
big
from
dude.
photos, he looks huge.
He's
He is-
6'7". I mean, he's legit
I mean,
6'7", 6'6".
He would duck to come in that doorway behind Bob. Like, I mean, he's a big guy. So,
I don't know if he's that big.
well, I mean,
I mean, that's
he
like
doesn't have to,
8
but-
feet up there.
Yeah. Yeah, he ducked.
At
Yeah.
least 7 foot.
Bowl might be able to get through there.
It's George Mirasan playing quarterback is basically what we're talking about here. So
Yeah, you had J.J. Hester, you had L.V. Bunkley Shelton. He
Yeah, we saw him
tweets
today.
last night that he's here, and then he's working the camp today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so those guys seem to really enjoy it.
I remember that last year. It seems like there was some recent transfers that were like working camps and stuff.
Yep.
And it wasn't like a situation of guys just like being out there because they had to be out there. They were, I mean, coaching, helping.
Oh, they were into
Justin
it.
Boyles
Yeah.
was coaching. Ethan Downs was coaching. Jeffrey Johnson was coaching. T.D. Roof was out there. David Awegbu.
And
There's a ton of them.
I want to give a shout out. One of our guys, Sean Cooper, one of the 7 on local guys that we really know and always helps us out. He was talking, and he's dead right. Ethan Downs, if he wants to get into coaching someday, that dude has a future in it.
Yeah.
Like if that's not little Miguel Chavis, I don't know who. Like same energy, same activity, like really positive in the way he teaches. He was enjoyable to watch. Like it was crazy, kind of picking up on him.
I told you yesterday, are we sure that they don't have one of those like child things that the kids would put on them at like like Six Flags or whatever?
Are you
like
talking
the,
about like a tether? Like
like the child doggy leash or whatever. It's like they just follow each other around,
They
which is
are,
a good
man.
thing. Like
They're
that's a great
connected.
thing.
I think they got better with those. Like they started making elephant backpacks that they would wear.
Yeah.
Like so they have a big long trunk,
Oh,
so it
so
doesn't
just-
look like you just have a chain
They
attached
don't
to
have
the
a
kid
chain
anymore.
around the
Yeah.
kid's neck or something.
Yeah.
I have never had to publicly shame my children like that. That feels
I
so cold
refuse.
blooded.
might.
I refuse to do it.
You might, Pearl, but you never know. Starts running around.
Pearl's a roamer. She's
Pearl
a
gets
lone
out of
wolf.
control.
I didn't really see much of the Keon Brown kid this morning. I know
Yeah.
that you guys saw him a lot more, but I mean, it had to have gone well to get an offer.
It was funny because watching him, and Bob probably even saw, I think, a little more than I did. But it was one of those things where you're watching that kid, and I'm like, if there's a better player here, I haven't seen him yet. He was dominant and doing it against, like I said, Kenyon Kelly, a guy with an offer, Jordan Pride, a guy that has an offer, Florida State commitment from the state of Florida, Landon Cleveland. Yep. And so there was, there was quality defensive backs there, and he was working them over. And I mean, not unanimously. I don't mean to make any of those guys look bad. That's not what I'm saying. He was just that good, and his offer couldn't have been less surprising to me. I thought he was probably, with the exception of Stone, the best guy I saw the last 2 days.
Tallahassee kid, so we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
Florida State and Auburn are perceived as his leaders.
Yeah.
And he's supposed to go to Auburn this weekend, I believe, too.
And that's the other thing about the kid from Louisiana in the second session. It's like he's from Baton Rouge. Like, come on.
Baton
Like,
Rouge, we'll
are
see.
you sure you from Baton Rouge?
And
You
I
sure
bel-
that's where you want to be from?
I don't know. I mean, you got Brian Kelly in Baton Rouge. That could go really well. We all know Brian Harson's going terrible at Auburn.
Well, and how much is everything
Florida
going to
State with Mike Nolan? No, what's his name?
Where?
At Florida State, the guy from Memphis.
Norvell.
Mike Norvell, yeah.
Yep.
Well, and how much are things going to be different here over the next 4 or 5 years when you start actually recruiting and saying, hey, we're going to be playing down there every year?
Yep. I think that is
That's going to be the most interesting thing to me, just how it
agreed.
affects kids' thinking. Like
Were you
when
surprised-
OU is a part of the SEC, knowing, and especially when they're the way they're talking about the pod system, it leaves it so open-ended
Yep.
to make you think I could be playing in
Sure.
Louisiana. I could play there twice in my college career or
Sure.
something like that.
Absolutely.
Looking back on all of it, or have you been surprised just how? And I think OU fans would say, well, look at some of the extracurriculars that have happened, but I was a little surprised just how much that door opened for A&M when they moved to the SEC. Now it could be different now that OU and Texas are both going down, and it's not A&M being able to say, why would you go to Norman or Austin when you come here and play the SEC? But there is going to be a little bit of a same idea there, or a same pitch at least.
But it helped Texas with all the guys that OU and Texas were recruiting. The Texas guys, it didn't mean that they were going toe-to-toe with Alabama and Georgia for guys from that part of the country.
No, it wasn't. But, I mean, you could definitely see, when A&M a couple years ago, and, people would say, they'll talk about NIL, and that's fair enough for last year. But basically the minute they hit the SEC, they started recruiting pretty consistently in the top 10, and that had not been A&M's MO prior to. I mean, there's just no question. You get bounced out of the SEC. And OU has a hell of a lot more to sell than Texas and, frankly, A&M. There is, people say, that's Homer stuff. But you can combine what Texas and A&M have done in the last 25 years, and it doesn't match up with OU.
Results on the field, no, there's no doubt.
Yeah,
now,
so
if you want to start having a pissing contest about donors and stuff like that, then
sure.
A&M and Texas are going to win.
Yep, but that's the reality. If that's the case, and again, I don't want to get into the NIL thing because it's a never-ending black hole. But if that's the case, then it's probably going to be A&M, Texas, and Ohio State playing for national championships every year, and everybody else is just doing what they can do.
And Miami being a part of it every once in a while, maybe.
Yep. I mean,
everybody thinks I have a love affair with John Ruiz. I really don't.
It borders on a man crush.
No, it's noteworthy. I mean, and I've just said, it's like the whole Saban thing this week. I was like, he backtracked because he realized Texas A&M, even if they are doing that, it's not technically cheating.
I don't know why. And you can tell it's old school coaches that can't get their head around that's not cheating anymore. They think it is, but it's not. It's within the rules. And I get that by everything we've ever known. It's hell, I'm not as old as most of these guys, and it's hard for me to get my head around it sometimes.
Never mind.
Don't go after lawyers. Let's not go after lawyers.
No, I wasn't going to go after anybody. I was going to add something, but I decided that wasn't going to be where I add.
Okay, sure. You're going to save that one?
Appreciate that because I really want to watch the finals game 1 instead of edited this pod.
So Josh,
cares? Basketball's over.
How big was it? Colin Simmons, we know he wasn't going to work out, but the fact that he showed up.
I think it's huge. I think it says a lot about where OU is for him, and that they're building a good relationship there. That's a kid, and I know he, I messaged with him a little bit, and it was pretty brief. Colin sometimes is very talkative, and sometimes he's not as much. But he did talk to Adam Gorney, and Gorney put something up on the board, and he was the thing that. And frankly, guys, maybe we have trouble dealing with it. And I know some people have posted stuff on the board too. The way that Brent Venables goes about things can seem different or odd. And it's so different than what we've, become accustomed to under Lincoln Riley, where it was very, A to B to C, where Brent's going to take the winding path. But at the same time, when you talk to these parents and you talk to the players themselves, they feel, for lack of a better way to say it, they feel seen. They feel like they really, I think Colin said something you can tell how much they really want me. You're the number one player in the country, dude. You wouldn't think that would be a problem, but he even at Oklahoma and as the number one guy in the country, you can tell it's unique for him, the amount of time and energy they put into him.
Well, and I can't imagine, too, now with this new staff and with all the people that are out there that, quote-unquote, work for the university, and whether it be on an on-field staff role or an off-the-field role, it's they all make their presence known out there. And I think that was one of the biggest differences that I've noticed here over the last and actually, being up close and seeing everything since this new staff took over was just how many of those guys are out there and how many of those guys are, not trying to be seen, but, coaching
Yep.
or talking to players or
Yep.
helping with parents or doing whatever they have to do. It's just like that's stuff that I think that they've needed for a long time. And who better to sell the program than guys that literally know it?
Sure. And we don't have to get into the specific examples, but I mean, I can, one player where I kind of identified, okay, that's his mom and dad. I need to go talk to them later, which is something, I've done at camps for 20 years. But you would watch, okay, there's the position coach. Now he's gone over and talked to him. Okay, he would leave. Okay, one of the soul guys would walk over and talk to him. Okay, now one of the GA, like they just constantly had somebody. And, I don't know that it was a recruiting pitch so much as like, hi, I'm, Curtis Lofton or whoever it's going to be. And, get to know me. Here's my phone number. You want to talk about something, I'm here. That, and it's that kind of stuff for the kids. You can argue, how they're going to feel about that. Cause Bob and I joke all the time about kids don't want to talk and they just want to be on their phone, but mom and dad, that stuff matters. They see it, they notice it. It makes them feel good that their son could go play for these guys and is going to be, seen and heard and those kind of things, and that they're going to be able to call not just Coach Venables or not just their position coach, but really there'll be multiple people within that staff that they have familiarity with.
Was there anything else from camp, or should we head to the 26 official visitors coming this weekend?
There's that many? I didn't even know. Is it a big weekend? That's great. Awesome. Cool.
No, I'm just trying to go through like the notes from yesterday and just make sure that we hit on everybody. Like the thing about it, like in most of these camps, and I think that we're seeing this more and more, is like the guys that we're going to see at these camps. I mean, you're going to have a handful of guys like the David Stones that come in camp, but there's just so many 2025 and 2026 kids that
don't stand out when you're there. You just have to watch.
It's just it's like, oh shit, that kid's what? He's a freshman right now? And then you watch him and it's like, okay, well, over the next couple of years, I'm gonna want to see this kid and how he develops. I mean, he could end up not even wanting to play football in a year because his parents are making him do it right now.
Sure.
But I think that, it's almost kind of like doing a little bit of homework going into the fall next year.
Yep.
Of knowing
Absolutely.
like, okay, so we're definitely gonna need to get down to the southeast part of Oklahoma because they're loaded down there.
Yep.
Like it's just good to know and get a good bearing of what these kids are going into what will be a big 2-3 year stretch for them as far as varsity football goes.
Guys, the next 2 to 3 years, Durant and Idabel could be a must-see game. Like,
circle it.
Win. Like, you can't name the last time that somebody outside of Southeast Oklahoma, somebody north of McAllister was like, I got to go to that game.
Sure.
Like, that's
See, all you big city guys just ripping on us.
No, it's a great rivalry.
No, I told you this. We had this discussion earlier today during lunch. Like, I feel like you guys live in a different Oklahoma than I grew up in. You just don't understand.
Well, it's BLC
It's because
versus
of the hat
others.
stuff. It's because I told the guys, like, yeah, we're about to run out of trucker hats. And, of course, Eddie's like, I don't get it. It's like, yeah, because you grew up in Putnam City, like in Oklahoma City.
I grew up in Oklahoma City. I went to Putnam City School District.
That make you
It's
feel
not
superior?
Well, it's not a
You
city.
feel superior
no,
now?
I remember having to explain to all of my fraternity brothers
That's
that
true.
Putnam City is not a
I've
city.
had
I
to
realize
It's
that.
not a city within
War
Oklahoma City.
Acres.
Aren't you in
Yeah.
Isn't War Acres they're not a city, that's just a resident? That's
War Acres.
War Acres is
War
a city.
Acres.
War Acres
It's a
was a
municipality.
city.
I think it's
That's
like
why
a
it's
town
confusing.
or municipality.
Yeah.
Municipality.
Yeah.
Municipality.
Municipality.
Oh, my God.
You're crushing it, brother.
Well, that's again.
Oh.
That is Oklahoma City School District.
It's Oklahoma City arrogance. That's what that is.
Well, it could be.
I mean,
And you're proud of it, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
It's
it's
not
elitism.
wrong.
Elitism.
You don't understand anyone that lived outside of a city, is
Well,
what I'm saying.
No, I understand people that live outside of a
You
city.
really
I just
don't. You say you do, but you don't.
he
I know,
understands the
I
concept.
I understand the concept of it, but I also understand what looks good and what doesn't too.
I mean, you drove a truck. I mean, when you first started working for us, you were driving a
I
truck.
did. Yeah.
So don't get all uppity.
Well, people can drive trucks in the city.
Not ones that were bashed in on the side.
I wasn't going to a
Usually
farm.
they get those things fixed.
Well, I made somebody drive.
Have you
when we
had a
went-
car that's not got the side bashed in your entire life?
Well, yeah.
When he first bought them.
When I first get it. When I first get it. I'm going to buy a new car this summer, though. That's why I haven't gotten this fixed. I just decided, hey, I'm going to wait on it.
Oh, that's why the last 3 years it's had a big dent in the side.
Well, it's all led to this culmination.
Sounds like somebody stealing insurance checks to me.
It sounds like a man with a plan. You know,
I wish I was stealing insurance checks. I know what I am surprised, though. I'm surprised that so many of the trucker hats have sold.
I'll own that as well. Yep.
And you know what? I can't wait to see them on game days down in Norman.
It's just like I just wish that you would be more mindful of the people that represent this state.
That's fair.
Well, I mean, that's a different conversation for another day. The people that actually represent the state on a national government level.
But I mean, those people
are just trying to become president.
Well, that's
they
true.
Don't care about us.
That's true.
The people that you're defending here, that you're
the
representing,
trucker hat buyers, because
they probably already hate Eddie.
That's true.
They listen to this podcast to hate listen.
Do you think that's the last Apple review is for a guy that bought a trucker hat?
Possibly. And guess what? I know he's one of the people that listens every week. So I guess we win.
He's waiting to jump on you.
Yeah.
You know why he listens?
He said that.
You know why he listens? Because there's a representative from Southwest Oklahoma on this podcast that grew up in a semi-small town.
We need somebody somebody from the Southeast Oklahoma representation as well.
I was
Maybe
telling
do a
the
little
guys
math.
this. It was very offensive at certain parts taking Eddie through Duncan because I showed him my church and it was like, holy shit, they have a church this big in
I was just
Duncan?
surprised there was so much electricity and running water down there.
And I driving him by the Elks Lodge, the country club, the
It
golf
was
course I grew
nice.
up. And
It was nice.
You shouldn't see it. Like his head was exploding in my car.
It
just
was
like,
nice. But I knew that there was money down there from the.
But there could be money
big
anywhere. I
company.
mean, Boone Pickens had a bunch of money out in the middle of nowhere in
yeah,
Texas.
but nobody's driving through his ranch down there.
Just saying, the earth does not revolve around Oklahoma City.
It revolves around me.
Me, duh.
Anyway, you know who the earth does revolve around? Dead Soxy. DeadSoxy.com. Go check them out. I've been checking out their website today. They've got the retros. Listen, folks, you got to get stocked up. The season is coming. We're in June. You're gonna want to get those no-shows to get out on the golf course. We've had some rain, so the weather's been pleasant, but it's going to continue to get hotter and hotter, and you want to get those no-shows and in just the boardrooms or your OU collection. So go to deadsoxy.com, DEADSOXY.com. Use the promo code SCOOP for 25% off. The promo code has changed. It is now just SCOOP for 25% off, and great deals for sock packages and all that stuff. So go shop the collection. DeadSoxy.com, great sponsors. All right, so Josh, let's talk about you mentioned the big recruiting weekend. We kind of got sidetracked there, but if we can go back to that and just, like we said, you said Brent wants to get guys to campus as early as possible.
He did with the spring game without an official visit.
Right. But, this weekend, I don't want to get people's hopes up and say, well, 26 kids are coming, 4 are going to commit, because that's probably not going to happen. But what is it? What does the recruiting weekend like this mean? Just another chance to have some big-time players, get in front of them, get them to know the coaching staff, all that, build that relationship?
Yeah, it's big from that level, but it's also big to have these guys just around each other, where they're hanging out. You've got – and OU has a commitment that'll be in. Jackson Arnold will be there, the quarterback, guy that's well-known, and knows some of these. He knows Jaden Greathouse, and you look at it. You're talking multiple Rivals 100, Rivals 250, Anthony Hill, a 5-star, bunches of 4-stars, Peyton Kirkland. I think that's one of the positions you're going to see come together this summer, good or bad. However it goes, offensive line. You got Bryson Sanders announcing this. You've got Wilkin Formby. You've got a lot of guys that you're going to know where you stand by the middle of July. Whether they've announced it publicly, you're going to have a good feel for where you're going and what you're doing. So I think that is what they're talking about. And guys, I don't know, Kerry, if you and I talked about this on the pod, but I've talked to several people that have told me the reason most of these guys are coming in is largely because Oklahoma thinks these guys will probably come to decisions before the start of the football season. And so they want to have them there. They want to have this shot to kind of get in front of them. The guys that aren't there don't read into OU's any more or less interested into those guys.
They just see it, their recruitment
They
playing
want,
out.
they want to bring them in the fall when it's a little closer to decision time, because for all the success Lincoln had as a recruiter, I think that was one of his real problems, is he would bring all the guys in this weekend and didn't really have any thought to when they were going to announce, and you would miss on guys that Oklahoma led for from June to August, but when it came time to decide in November, they'd taken 3 more officials and they had moved in a different direction. So I like what they're doing. I like that they're being that earnest about it. We've been around a guy that's the first official visitor of the season the last couple of days, in Jabron Harvey, the edge player from Durham, Southern Durham in North Carolina. And guys, I've talked to both of you. I couldn't be more enamored with his film. I love what he brings to the table, and seeing him in person.
Absolutely.
Yep, that checks the boxes.
Checks it. Yep.
That is a 6'3" and some change, 220-pound kid with long arms, runs really well. Dad is a big guy. Like, you think he'll grow into his frame. I've had some questions on certain guys, like, okay, how does OU fit this guy into their scheme? What are they going to do? I think he's a guy that could be good enough to play kind of that Sam, like they like to use some at Clemson, or he could grow in and be, and heck, maybe you even keep him on the field and he's a 240-pound defensive end on 3rd and long or something.
It's been super fun to see just how he bounces back and forth, or they bounce him back and forth between Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis too. It's like you can tell that there is a very comfortable back and forth that they throw at him, as far as like it's just 2 different styles of guys. Like Chavis is going to be more of the, and it's exactly what you would think it is. Chavis is more of the relatable, he's going to rap with you, do all that kind of stuff, which we can get into later. It's kind of weird, but maybe let's not do that. But, and Todd Bates is more of like the father role. He's going to be like the, I don't know if it's good cop, bad cop type of things, because I don't see Bates being the type of guy that's necessarily going to jump somebody's throat, but there is like this very comfortable dance that they do with each other.
Yeah, and that's why you don't have to read into it too much. Oh, he's only talking to Chavis.
Sure.
No. Believe me, those 2 work together as well as they can.
Well, I talked about it on the notes from yesterday at camp, where Demarion Thomas hardly had any conversations with Bates, but he spoke a lot with Miguel Chavis.
Thomas is not a defensive.
Demarion Thomas is 6'2", 315, 320. That dude ain't a D end ever. So, and again, people are like, well, is that a bad thing? No, I don't take it that way. I think that's just the way they operate, where Miguel is the day-to-day hands-on guy.
Because he was for Todd for years at Clemson.
Yep, and Todd is the closer. He's going to come in and make you feel good and shake mom and dad's hand and make everybody feel good about it, and he's going to finish the job. And now, as Miguel gets more comfortable as a full-time recruiter, that'll evolve a little bit. But, I think that is the roles they are comfortable in right now. And from what we've seen, they're getting very good response from the defensive line recruits. So I think it's going to be something that works for them.
All right.
Man, we went through it all.
What is – this is such a tough question, but, like, when you have 26 official visitors coming in the first weekend, and it's so early, and, I think we all kind of agree that you're probably not going to walk out of here and wake up on Sunday afternoon to 10 commitments. Like, it's hard to gauge what a successful quote-unquote weekend is going to be. Like, it just, like, there's no immediate thing that you can point to and say, well, this is a great weekend for everybody, because everybody's going to – it's kind of like the thing that we always run into on Sunday afternoons after, official visits.
Getting responses. Yeah, I love the staff.
It's like every kid loves a visit. You're very rarely, unless they go hang out with, Mikey Henderson and knock somebody off, like, to say that it was a bad weekend.
Yeah.
What is it like I don't know. Can it even be gauged out there as far as what it is, or is this going to have to be what you insinuated, Josh, as far as get to mid-July, see where everybody's at? And I know that sucks right now on, June 2nd, June 3rd, June 4th, but it just kind of is what it is.
Yeah, to a degree. As I look over this list of 26 that we've got up on the board, guys, there are one of them is no U commitment. I already mentioned earlier in Jackson Arnold. So you've got 25 other guys in play. If you told me by the start, let's just say the start of the football season, that 8 to 9 to 10 of these guys were part of OU's class, I would not be shocked at all. Like, I think there are good things coming. And there's some part of me that's just like, there's not going to be this many guys on campus and somebody doesn't pop. Like, I feel like I would be lying if I said I know who it's going to be. Like, I don't have that feel. I don't at all.
Don't be a 3-star. Don't be a 3-star. Don't be a 3-star.
To OU's credit, it'd be really hard to be. I mean, they've got, of all their guys coming in, of the 26, 3 3-stars. I was trying to do the math earlier on how many Rivals 100 and Rivals 250s, but I was like, I can't do that and actually talk. But there are 3 3-stars coming in, and a couple of them are guys that Darian Gillette, the linebacker from Marlin, Texas, Samuel Almasigo from Crandall, another guy that I know is a priority guy for Oklahoma. They've put a lot of energy and time into him. So, it's not just, he's a 3-star. Like, OU rates him highly. So, but yeah, I mean, you look down this list, and guys, there are a lot of big-time guys. I'm going to get crap. There's 5. I missed 2 at the bottom that were below my scroll line. But so there's 5 guys. So 80% of the uncommitted guys coming in are 4-stars, Rivals 250s, or Rivals 100 guys. I mean, that's a huge weekend by any stretch of the imagination. And there's going to be guys here that OU misses on. I don't think they're going to get Jaden Greathouse. Peyton Kirkland's going to be a tough hill to climb. Mm-hmm. But Peyton Kirkland, there's a lot of interesting conversation. His mom is moving to Houston. There's some Trent Williams connection to that whole storyline. So there's some interesting stuff there. Like, I don't know what to make of it all just yet.
Trent Williams?
The Trent Williams.
Wow.
The
Big
silverback.
T?
Yep. I am trying to confirm how much of that is real. That's the only part I don't know. I do know she is moving to Houston. That is happening. So, obviously, that puts OU in a better light when you're looking at the other schools on his list. I mean, that just OU is a much closer place than several of those schools, and at least equidistant to many of the others. So, like I said, I like where OU is for him. I think that's absolutely a guy they could pull a surprise for. And if you can get Peyton Kirkland and Josh Bates, you've already got, and then you get Caden Green, who most of the country expects OU to land. I mean, guys, that's a start of a really good offensive line class. Peyton Kirkland may only be ranked as a 4-star in Rivals. That's going to change in the next update. I know he's really impressed a lot of people. That's a guy that could end up in the Rivals 100. I mean, you could be talking about bookend tackles that are top 100 guys in the country.
And you have OU going all out, shooting its shot this first month. Can they survive the rest of the month when these guys make those same visits to the other schools that are going to be going after them? Is it hard to be the first weekend?
It is, sure.
I think that's the thing, though, that we don't know about. Like, Brent's obviously learned a lot about a lot of things. There's got to be something about visit weekends that he's learned that he's able to use to really make an impact maybe that other staffs haven't been able to make.
Is there enough time literally for him to be able to talk to 26
kids and their family?
He's doing his first exit interview when the kid shows up.
On Tuesday, he gets to like the 4th kid, and he's like, all right, well, we're going to have to Zoom you. I know you got to leave.
Coach, they've been on campus for 96 hours. We've got some NCAA violations just from the interviews. I think what you're going to see is the first indication of, does this methodology work? Like, we're going to find out, because it's a reasonable question, because now I will say I've always been a believer either first or last. Like, you're either the first visit or the last visit. I would never want to be in the middle. Like, I think, because you either make that first impression that every other school gets compared to, or you get the last punch. Like, I'm fine with either one, but for them to bring in this many guys this weekend tells me this is something they believe in, that they think they can make this work. So
the thing to me that I just kind of on the outside looking in that I think will be different with Brent is the relationships that this staff builds with the parents. Because you saw what was going on with Lincoln and the parents, Marvin Mims' father, DJ Graham's mom. I mean,
Latrell McCutcheon's whole family.
Yeah, those relationships got completely strained, and it just seemed like maybe the relationships were good in recruiting, but then I think, like with everything else with Lincoln, he only put attention into the most important things, and I think the parents probably never heard from the coaching staff again after the recruiting part was over. And I just think with Brent, from what we know, and just joking about how much he'll talk, like those relationships are not going to be over when the kid commits or when he signs.
Yeah, because that's how they're gonna not have to live through the portal.
The portal, yeah.
That's their methodology. That's how it's gonna be done. Is the family atmosphere that you preach in recruiting keeps going when you get on the campus, and reaching out to the family, bringing them into the relationship, and that's how your hope is you're not having to go after 15 to 20 kids like Venables had to do the last couple months.
And guess what? We saw those relationships with parents pay off with Lincoln in the recruiting process.
Sure.
Yep.
But I think Brent's his approach is going to be much more genuine and probably, more lasting with these parents than it was
lasting
with
is a
Lincoln.
perfect word for it. Yep. And guys, we saw it to some degree today. I mean, like, we can talk about some of the camp things were like, well, that's different. That's a little unique. Miguel Chavis rapping. I mean, we already kind of joked about that. But, guys, like, you can tell there's a lot more player ownership of what they're doing. I mean, like, they were letting people – Ethan Downs was just running drills today. Like, he knew what he was supposed to do. Bates didn't mess with him. He was like, you do that. You lead those guys. And I think
This is
that
amazing.
yeah.
I really hadn't seen that at any camps over the last 10 years.
No.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
At
even
least
under
not that-
Bob.
At least not like, and maybe I'm just completely
You see-
brainwashed,
well, you
but
see
not
it-
like the buy-in from the guys.
Yeah, you'd see little things like I remember when the Stoops brothers were here at camp, and like Stephen Parker would be over there coaching them.
Sure.
But it was kind of like a big brother deal.
There
like
was
he
a
just
reason
did
for
it for
it. Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You'd see that kind of stuff. But
Kerry worked in like Stoops reference, but whatever.
I don't think I mentioned him at all.
No.
I wonder why he lit those candles in the back room earlier.
No, but
I'm not taking this shit from you guys. I'll take it from the paying customers.
there was but you're right. It wasn't just like, oh, they're leading the drills. Like, if a guy wasn't doing it correctly, those guys would stop him and be like, no,
Yep.
okay, you want hands here, you want to move your hips, like that kind of I mean, obviously the hip movement, I caught up on that. That's right down my alley. So but
it's just like
You
this-
were ready to stop drills yourself.
exactly. No, his hips are all wrong there, coach.
it was just like the stuff that we talked about with Jordan Kelly at the beginning of the year, and like how much stuff he had picked up from Todd Bass just from a technique standpoint in the first couple weeks of spring ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you're excited about something, you want to be able to show people.
And guys, I mean, and Bob, you can attest this. Jordan Kelly has never been like a loud, outgoing guy, and so to watch him working with those kids today, I was like, wow. I mean, like, felt like a kid coming out of his shell. Like, I mean, he was just a different cat. I mean, not like he was Justin Broyles out there, but definitely was engaged. I mean, was helping those guys.
Engaged and ownership. Those are two words we used a lot during the spring, and we're seeing it carry over now as we get into summer.
All right, let's hit on some of what's going on in spring sports. I mean, obviously.
Well, let's hit basketball real quick.
Yeah.
Because that is interesting with like what's going on with the coaching situation. KT Turner headed to Kentucky now. Like dub TF, Bob. they got spots open on the roster. They got two assistant coaching spots. Like I want to ask like when the end in sight is, but I don't know when that's going to be.
Is there
Right.
trouble in paradise?
I mean, most of the guys will arrive by Sunday, but there's 2 open scholarship spots, and a lot of kids that withdrew from NBA draft in the last 2-3 days that now you will wait out, see if a Kerwin Walton will
Drew
come
Timmy's
your way.
coming to Norman?
He said, "I'm back." He's going, but Jacob Grandison from Illini, that's another one that OU's really trying to make an impression on. But you've got scholarships, so you're hoping maybe guys will fall into your lap. Now you look at the 2 coaching spots. I feel like Matt Gordon has been elevated to an assistant, and it just hasn't been announced to replace David Patrick. But with KT Turner leaving as well, I don't know if Clayton Custer is going to be put into that position this early in his coaching career. I think Porter might have to go outside and try to find someone. So, yeah, that's another wrinkle to sort of throw into things. But, I mean, they still feel very confident about the 11 guys they have. I don't know if we've got to talk about Grant Sherfield because we had the technical difficulties. But adding Sherfield, I mean, that's just huge. If you Sherfield, Bamasil as your backcourt or two parts of it, I mean, that's a loaded group that can score. That's something that Moser wanted to address. I don't know if the waiver process is going to be necessary or if it's just going to be blanket waivers across the board and they just let them all play because they're both two-time transfers. But that adds a lot of scoring with Sherfield, one of the only guys to average 6 assists per game the last 2 years.
And that was something that you could just tell talking to Porter last week in Oklahoma City at the Omni at the final Sooner Caravan stop. That was like a recruiting, that's a big win for them. Just as far as what he was talking about, and like you could envision him, and even the Norweather kid, like,
yes,
they feel like they found a diamond in the rough just listening to what Porter was talking about as far as how he was describing him. And like a 6'11" kid that can shoot, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah,
but with Sherfield and with what he, you don't hear Porter talk about guys, and at least I hadn't heard him talk about guys like this, just as far as like what he can do off the pick and roll, what he can do in his offense. I think they envision him and Tanner Groves having a lot of success with pick and pops next year.
Yeah, and there's some board members who've absolutely caught on that it's not about like getting a big from the portal that's like 6'11", 250 with
your
a
generic 5 or whatever.
Get it back to the basket. No, it's got to be a fit. It's got to be a pick and pop 5, and that's what Northweather appears he's going to be. So I'm not even sure if they're going to go all in or go hard after another big in the portal if they feel like Luke can be that person. But the ball screen offense and what Sherfield generates, you knew it was something Moser was looking for, and they absolutely got their guy. I mean, it took a month. He visited for spring football game weekend. We had multiple reports and sources telling us he's going to be a Sooner. Just give it time. And, that's sort of a new process, too, that those coaches have had to work out. The guys that are in the portal, that are in the draft, then you get a feel they're going to withdraw, but you have to have that trust to know, okay, they're going to withdraw eventually, and they're going to come to us. We won't all of a sudden just be left lurking and having to find another person.
I got to tell everybody in person, it's glorious watching Josh not give a shit about basketball.
It's real, people.
I mean, he really checked out. Like, he's in his emails.
At his computers.
We have to hold the mic for those that, again, to kind of see behind the curtain here. I considered dropping it, but I was like, I have to buy it and replace it. I don't want to do that. So I considered just dropping it as soon as basketball came up. But it's Moser. Yeah, he's doing great. Good work. Really love the basketball stuff.
I actually think it's Moser.
Moser? Okay. I'll steal an Eddie right
There's
over
no
it.
I. People that say Mosier have got to stop that. There's no I.
Oh, no. Now you're gatekeeping.
Mosier.
Okay, I see.
Mosier.
Singing the national anthem at the Cubs game on Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
will
cool.
be.
That's cool.
Is this 7th or 8th time?
9th time, I think. I think he's 8-1.
Wow. All right, Josh, I don't want him to leave just yet, so let's move on. Softball in action. You saw them win today. They'll get tomorrow off. Baseball starts tomorrow. 12:30?
Noon. Straight up noon in Oklahoma on Friday.
That'll be on ESPN Plus.
Yep. ESPN Plus for that. Softball's not back in action until Saturday in the semifinals against Texas. Or not semifinals, but the first winner's bracket game against Texas. 2 o'clock on Saturday at
I hear that's
Stadium.
going to be a big one because Texas beat them once. Is that the deal?
Yeah, well, they definitely want to win now, right?
Yeah. It's the World Series, but they needed the juice, so that's good.
Yeah, or maybe they lose just to get a little bit of action.
Well, it worked for them last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe this is like 8 men out. Maybe the women have money on this.
That'd be awesome. I would.
Eddie would endorse that.
I have threatened though suicide by jumping out of the Devon Tower if I'm ever not involved in a point shaving scandal with Oklahoma. That'd be like my dream, and I'd love to be a part of that. So somebody let me know if that's the case.
And I know you're covering camps today, but Skip did have a little press conference. We'll have that up on the site.
Yeah. We're about to put it up. I know that I talked to them. What was that? Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning before they left. And they're playing really, really well right now. I think that we kind of like joked about it a couple times on the pod throughout the season, where it's like if they could just have this, they could be a pretty good baseball team. And it all kind of came together over the weekend down in Arlington at the Big 12 tournament.
Here's my question: is Cade Horton the secret weapon for this team in the
Cade
region?
Horton. I mean, if they can get what Cade Horton did in the Big 12 championship game And they've started, and if you look at all of his starts, they've stretched him out each time, and he's gotten better each time. That was the best he's ever thrown, though, against Texas in the Big 12 championship. And if you can get that out of him, Jake Bennett, and David Sandlin, all of a sudden you get into a regional where everything shortens up. They could be really, really competitive. And, I don't know how much to I want to believe it, but, you listen to a guy like a Kendall Rogers who does D1 baseball, a big-time guy in the college baseball world. He has them as not just a sleeper to win the Florida Regional. He has them losing the national championship series to Tennessee. He has them getting to Omaha and getting to the national championship series. So,
and yes,
we'll
people
see.
out there, that's him disrespecting.
Is it?
Why didn't he pick us to win?
Oh, sure.
It better
sure.
be a coach on the line or a recruit.
No, I think
Bob
it might
just
be a little
walked
bit
off
of a
that.
radio hit. I think Bowman's doing a little radio hit right now.
So I'm just saying, I mean,
They're
for all my reported hatred, Bob left during baseball.
Sure.
So, I've never walked out on basketball.
they're playing really well, though.
You have. We've heard you.
Peyton Graham is playing at a level right now that
We've heard you feed the dogs.
It's been a long time since somebody has played as well as Peyton Graham has.
It's
And
amazing.
The team has kind of come around him. I mean, he's a finalist for the Brooks Robinson Award, which goes to the top shortstop in college ball. He's a semifinalist for the Golden Spikes Award. He is a guy that, I think will eventually be I don't know about a first rounder, but I think he'll go second or third round, probably, maybe even fourth round.
Did you have a problem with the regional pairings?
Well, it's kind of shitty. I mean, I think that if you look at Oklahoma's resume, they did enough to be able to host. They're playing as well as anybody. I think that I told you guys the other night, if you take Stanford out of the equation, which they've won 17 in a row and won the Pac-12, I think that Oklahoma's playing just as hot as anybody. They ended the season winning 5 series in a row. That's including series in Fort Worth and Lubbock. They beat Texas in the Big 12 championship. They beat Tech again for the 5th time in the Big 12 tournament. Or fourth time in 5 tries. So they're playing extremely well. And I think overall college baseball has to go back and look at what they're doing because the RPI stuff is so janky right now. There's just no reason for RPI to play as big of a role as it does in the sport. And I think that, I asked Skip about that a couple days ago. And, I think that is something that coaches will push for by the end of the season. But, big picture, OU baseball, it was an incredible year.
Yeah.
I mean, Mike Rooney, the ESPN national analyst, said that he doesn't think anybody's improved from February to May as much as Oklahoma has. I know that there were some people that were frustrated with kind of the direction of the program at the beginning of the season when you give up leads late in the 9th inning to whether it be LSU or that Texas game or that OSU game. And it just it all started to kind of come together. And I think that, you look at the freshmen that have started to develop on this team, whether it be John Spikerman in right field or Wallace Clark, who's kind of become a mainstay at third base. Jackson Nicholas has had a big run at second base. So they have a lot of really young talent. Max McGuire's a guy that's kind of waiting in the wings, and he's having to play behind Blake Robertson, who is literally having an All-American type year. He would have been all Big 12 first baseman of the year or first team if he didn't play in the same league as Ivan Melendez, who won the Big 12 Player of the Year and is probably going to be a finalist for the Golden Spikes Award. So it's kind of fun. They're headed in the right direction. I think Reggie Willis has been incredible. They ended up finishing the year top 5 in the country in stolen bases. The chaos, hashtag chaos or whatever they've kind of coined it as, it definitely has all started to come together for him.
It's been a great spring. I know Joe Castiglione's very proud of all the sports and the way they've played. And
golf, they come up short this week. Golf, Women's tennis gets to the national championship, which I think is the first time that they've ever been able to get that far.
You've added a women's gymnastics championship along the way.
Yeah, and golf, they made it to match play for the 6th time in a row, and that's an NCAA record. Ryan Hibble has a powerhouse, and they came up short. Sometimes that's going to happen in golf. Sometimes that's going to happen in specifically in match play. But it's kind of weird. It's like a weird set 48 hours for Chris Gotterup, the transfer in from Rutgers, who wins the Haskins Award, and he goes from having a putt on the 17th hole on the 71st hole, his 17th hole of the day, to take a lead at the NCAA tournament or the NCAA individual championships, and just didn't close. And I think that he's going to have an interesting kind of next couple months. He's going to probably get some sponsor exemptions into the PGA Tour. He comes just on the outside looking in for the PGA Tour U stuff. Logan McCuistion did get his Korn Ferry status. So, it's the spring sports are unbelievable. I know it probably is a little bit of a bug in people's side that Texas had a little bit better one because they're the ones winning the national championships.
Yeah,
it's been great for I guess the brother-in-laws that are going to the SEC here in the next couple of years.
It has been. It's been ridiculous for both OU and Texas. All right, well, Josh has got to catch a plane. It's great having you in town. Sitting here through the pod watching these big screen TVs in front of us, I feel like we need to start up the Sooner Scoop wing truck or something.
I'll tell you what, man, the coming in here to do post-game pods after games, specifically home games.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be quite nice.
Yes.
It's going to be quite nice being able to come up here and do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We got
some plans. Well, you're going to just have to start coming up for games, I think.
Mm-hmm.
See, there you go.
You're going to have to start coming up.
Conversations.
It's been discussed. See, keep buying those hats.
I don't know, though.
SoonerScoopStore.com.
With Josh up here, I've come very close to dying multiple times on sidelines.
Eddie almost got clobbered today.
I think Josh is a...
Were you using the new camera?
No. Because I knew. Actually, that's a longer story.
And to be fair, I
might
probably
have
should
forgot
have
to
said
wake
something
up this morning.
Yeah, Eddie's had a day.
Yeah.
It's almost Friday. That's all I live to get.
I'm just glad that you figured out how to drink during weekdays now.
I
Obviously.
haven't.
Okay.
That's the problem.
See, you gotta use excuses like that. You drive me to drink morning radio show.
Well, I think that's called a problem.
I haven't.
Way to get judgy.
Fair.
Drink a little more whiskey, and you can develop one of those.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
Yeah, Josh and I have the answer. We like bourbon and whiskey.
I mean, these 4 TVs are going to be. I can think about is, with the golf on, especially. This is
you came here earlier today. I had the ESPN Plus, the follow, and the
this is a nice setup.
The live thing.
This is a nice setup.
I'm gonna go ahead and make reservations for March. So we're gonna have TBS. We can have True on. I mean, we're gonna be.
Oh yeah, you want to watch the
absolutely.
That's the only time that you'll pay attention to the basketball. But hey, you got to start somewhere.
Well, that's the thing. Like people are like, why'd you start there? It's because I want to have a place where people want to come and do work and feel at home, and especially game days. I probably won't be going to games anymore, doing all the stuff we're going to be doing in the studios. So this will be a nice home base, and be a nice home base for whether we have social media interns or whatever, just for people to be. So it's really cool. I guess I can't really say that since I did it, but
should I tell all the students that listen to the podcast to get with Carrie Murdoch about internships?
Yeah, we're getting close to that. So hit me up. My DMs are open. Unlike Josh, my DMs are open.
My DMs are open?
Are they now?
Oh, yeah.
After I've yelled at you about it?
I'm Twitter slutty.
Okay.
I got to talk to recruits. I get dads hitting me up like,
no, we're not talking about Insta. We're talking about Twitter.
No, I know.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I think that's a must.
I don't we're talking about some coaches that still have them close. I don't know how you operate like that.
Yeah, I don't either.
In recruiting, because you're just not always going to know the names you need to talk to. If I can know about them 10 seconds before my competition does, I want to know about them.
And trust me, as a man who gives out his phone number regularly, there are some crazy people out there, but not a lot of them. I mean, I know I'm not going to convince you of that.
That's not my thing.
Yeah, I know that's never going to happen.
Yeah,
for me, it works.
It's taken me 15 years to answer the phone when you call. That's a lot.
We talked about that last week.
That's growth in mine. So, but no, I do need to get going.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks to Dead Sausage. We got a new sponsor that we're going to announce next week. We're very excited about it. Josh is really excited about it. But SoonerScoopStore.com. We about to run out of trucker hats, but they are on order. But the Imperial's still in stock. We still have plenty of visors. We've got the trucker caps in both the twill and the mesh. So go on SoonerScoopStore.com, get yourself a hat, and SoonerScoop.com stuff coming soon as well. So
and for the people that do want me here, as we talked about in the post game pod, guys, that private jet's not going to buy itself for the McCuistion clan to get up here.
NetJets account. I noticed Eddie had NetJets pulled up earlier.
Yeah. So we're going to need to for Laney and Layla
about a plane.
All right, well, we're going to need to use that. we might bump up your pay a little bit. All right, so that's going to do it. Thanks, Josh. It's
Now
great
you have
having
my
you here.
interest.
Thanks to Bob, and he is now back from his radio hit, I assume. Yes, he's shaking his head. Yes, he's slutting out himself to other people.
You think you can just talk to
Love
whoever
it.
you want to?
Love
This
it.
Billow.
Love it.
All right, thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week for another edition of the Unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.